On 3D tonight, the masked men protesting against the sewage in our seas. The woman attacked by a big cat on the loose. And TB, the deadly disease that's on the way back. Good evening and welcome to 3D. Today the Good Beach Guide is published, but it includes only 1 in 8 of our approved bathing beaches. Many are excluded because of debris on the beach or sewage in the sea. Just last week, the owner of a beach in Devon won an out-of-court settlement from South West Water because sewage was polluting his seashore. One group is leading a rising tide of protest against the dirty beaches. 3D went to the southwest to join Surfers Against Sewage.
The Surfers Against Sewage are angry. Each time one of their 13,000 members rides the waves of Britain, they run the risk of catching serious diseases from polluted seawater. Every tide brings raw sewage onto some of our most popular holiday beaches. For the last 4 years, Chris Hines has led the Surfers campaign against the water companies.
We're wearing these gas masks to make a point. Scientific research has actually shown that the air above the surf can be 200 times more polluted than the water itself.
The Good Beach Guide doesn't recommend Porthtowan, Cornwall.
We nickname it Porth Tampon because of the appalling state of it. Some days it's just awash with panty liners, condoms, and a soup and a slick of human effluent.
The sewage at Porthtowan comes from the Northcliffe outfall. South West Water is spending £900 million on a clean sweep programme to improve antiquated sewage outfalls. This, one of the largest, is not included, although the law requires that South West Water cleans it up before the year 2001. Human faeces float in rock pools.
According to the government, this is a passed beach. They recommend that people can come here and bathe safely. The government say that this beach passes the EC Bathing Water Directive. The fact is that it passes 2 out of the 19 criteria laid down in that directive, and it only complies with the bare legal minimum standard for the UK government to avoid prosecution.
Some families who live in Porthtowan will not allow their children to play on the beach.
And you look down the beach, it looks idyllic. One of these came up with a used Durex, and she said, "Look, I found a balloon." Now, to this day, we don't know whether she tried to blow it up. Now, this is one incident with our children, and we're only on this beach 2-3 times a year. So imagine all the other children that's been on the beach doing the same sort of thing. And it sort of brings it down to home quite savagely.
The kind of things that people catch are very commonly ear, nose and throat infections, diarrhoea and vomiting, skin irritations and that kind of thing. But there's also the far more serious cases where people get things such as hepatitis and viral meningitis. Members of Surfers Against Sewage are actually in legal action against some of the water companies.
80 miles along the coast and another grievance against South West Water's clean sweep. Once again, sewage is the problem. The last muscleman in Devon, Brian Hill. 3 generations of his family have harvested the rich shellfish beds of the Tor estuary. New tight regulations have prohibited him from selling them because they are too contaminated by sewage.
This is a clump of mussels. They're lovely quality mussels. There are no barnacles on, and they're very clean shelled, fairly thin shelled, which is what the market requires. Very high quality mussels. Now, because of the pollution, the beds are prohibited. We are not permitted to sell them at all.
The pollution comes from 3 sewage outfalls.
Their proposals will not
And chartered engineer Steve Sherry confirms that Brian's future is bleak.
I've prepared this map of the Torridge estuary for you. It shows the relationship of your mussel beds, your major ones here and here, and the relationship of those beds to the three major sewage outfalls.
Yes.
Just from those three works alone, there are 120,000 million bacteria a second being discharged into the Tor estuary.
Dear, dear.
This has been confirmed in South West Water's latest report. 99.6% of all bacteria in the estuary is coming from their sewage works. Now, if we look at their clean sweep proposals, you're still going to get a huge amount of bacteria coming out over your mussel beds. They actually say that your beds will not be harvestable even after the clean sweep programme.
Dear, dear, this is the end then.
Brian must now sell the boat that he built with his own hands.
Well, it's become obsolete now, and my mussel business has been closed down, and we have no further use for the boat, and therefore it will just rot out. It's absolutely useless to me. Therefore, we're getting rid of it, and we've just got this painting here as a memory.
Brian Hill is suing South West Water for damages. The company points out that they have followed the letter of the law.
I don't have any information that South West Water has put anybody out of business. That's certainly not what we're all about. What we're about is improving the environment and meeting the standards that are laid down by the National Rivers Authority. And with an investment of 900 or so million pounds in this area, concentrated on 81 bathing waters, all which will meet the EC standards in the future, this is a tremendous investment. It's a tremendous improvement of the environment.
South West Water's clean sweep isn't a clean sweep. They have left out Camborne and Redruth, the largest conurbation in Cornwall, discharging 5 million gallons of crude a day. They've left out Newquay, the 5th largest resort in Britain. Again, 5 million gallons a day. It's a slight clean-up. It will be an improvement, but it's not the whole job by any means.
20% of British beaches fail to meet even the standards set for Porthtowan. Until all raw sewage discharges are stopped, holidaymakers, mussel-men and surfers will continue to suffer the consequences.
This week, 4 members of Surfers Against Sewage have been granted legal aid to finance a medical study into the effects of sewage in the sea on their health. Now, do you remember the beast of Exmoor or the Surrey puma? Some people think that repeated sightings of such creatures are exaggerated, but there's a growing body of evidence which suggests that we do have increasing numbers of big cats like panthers and pumas roaming our countryside. A Scotland Yard detective has devoted the last 6 years to investigating sightings round Britain, and so far he's logged over 300 incidents. Detective Steve Ashcroft took us on his latest investigation.
Farmers the length of Britain have been losing livestock to mysterious predators. A broken neck and a fleece surgically removed, the hallmark of a big cat kill.
It's the right colour for puma. The animal that John's seen on the occasions.
Police detective Steve Ashcroft has been brought to the scene of the latest sighting of the Surrey puma by wildlife ranger Peter Haynes.
Well, John's seen this animal, something bigger than a fox. It's got a feline gait. It runs with an arch back, it's got a long tail.
Steve Ashcroft has tracked the Surrey puma for 6 years. 5 deer have just been killed near here. This hair may be hard evidence that a puma was responsible.
I'm wondering if it's been seen 4 or 5 times in the last month or so, that whether it has in fact got young to support. Because if it's just feeding itself, it could do that quite happily at night. It's timed it with the birth of the roe deer and rabbits and other mammals.
Steve's off-duty hours are spent collecting sightings from nearly every county in Britain. Reports come in thick and fast, 36 since the new year. His next investigation is in the West Midlands. a woman has been wounded by a big cat.
There seems to have been an increase in the number of sightings, certainly from 1976, when the Dangerous Animal Act came into force. People were required to get licences for the animals. Some owners seem to have deliberately let the animals go.
But big cats not only escape from illegal owners. Official figures show that 293 zoo animals escaped between 1970 and 1988. Many big cats were never recaptured. Steve's destination is the heart of England, south of Birmingham. In the last 9 months, sightings of a black panther have centred on the churchyard in the village of Inkborough. 8 people have seen it. Steve questions eyewitness Jack Fowkes.
I opened the gate, the dog shot out, and I stopped him. And then I turned me back to shut the gate.
I'll come through.
Turned like that, and just there where them little bits of soil there was this black animal. And I decided it was a panther.
Are you quite sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
What sort of dog have you got?
Alsatian dog, a big Alsatian.
The animal that you saw, was it bigger or about the same size as
Same size as the dog.
You're quite sure it wasn't a black Labrador? Or...
No way.
When you first saw it, what was it doing? Was it lying down?
It just
sitting?
stood. I come to the conclusion that it was curious about the dog. And they just stared one another out.
Further evidence of the Black Panther. This picture was taken by an amateur photographer. He was just 20 miles from Inkborough. And the first videotape of the animal came from the warden of a wildlife refuge. Steve's prime objective, to interview the couple who were attacked by the panther, Nick and Sally Dyke.
Can you go through, in your own words, what you saw and what happened?
Surely. I moved into this area and put my foot on something that moved. It was the cat. I assumed it was asleep. It seemed very shocked. It catapulted away from me and hit that stand of trees. It literally ran into them. It span round, and I don't believe it was trying to attack me. I think it was just trying to get away. But it leapt in my direction, cannoned into my shoulder, and sent me spinning back out in this direction. Sally was on the track here, and the creature ran towards her, and then it performed some sort of really peculiar aerial acrobatics. Its shoulders went one way, its hips went the other way, and it swatted at her with its right paw.
Is this where it made the hole?
Yes, it's where it hit my side, yes. It's gone right the way through.
Says, in actual fact, on the outside of your jacket you can see 2 puncture marks here and here. And it seemed to be about 5 inches in length. It's gone straight through there. You can see the slash there. Did it penetrate your underclothing?
Yes, it actually penetrated my rib cage, yeah.
Have you got... Is there marks on your skin there?
Yes. If I can
have a look?
Yes,
oh, Christ, quite nasty, isn't it?
And those marks are about 12 weeks old now.
Having seen the witnesses, I tend to think you've got so much overwhelming circumstantial evidence that yes, there is black panther on the loose here.
And there is further disturbing evidence that exotic big cats are widespread. The beast of Ludlow, the proud possession of Dr. Carl Schuker, the country's leading expert on rare big cats. The jungle cat was run over in Shropshire in 1989.
In Great Britain, all sorts of cats have been reported and specimens have been found. Black panthers, pumas, leopard cats, jungle cats like lynx, even golden cats. There are reports of large animals with cubs in some cases. There have even been footprints of large cats and small footprints next to them.
Dr. Schuker thinks that some exotic cat species are here to stay.
frankly, I think we've got to the position where there isn't a great deal we can do. There are too many of them. They are extremely elusive. People say, well, you know, just shoot them, but that's easier said than done. People have said try trapping them. Again, very easy to say, very difficult to carry out. I'm afraid it's got to the situation where we literally have to accept they are here and there isn't a great deal we can do about it.
But Detective Ashcroft wants the Black Panthers tracked down immediately.
The cats living in the countryside at the moment appear in quite good health. They're living off rabbits, roe deer and occasional sheep. The worry comes as time goes by, they're going to age, they probably won't be able to catch their natural prey, and that's when there could be a bit of a worry for people. The attack on the dykes is the exception rather than the rule. I think they got themselves in the unfortunate circumstances of cornering the animal while it was feeding. If you came across one, keep facing it, don't turn your back on it, don't shoot it. Go to your local police. If somebody's trying to take a pot shot of it, they could wound it, they could partially injure it, and then you've got a really dangerous animal on your hands.
This weekend, Steve Ashcroft is to investigate the sighting of a family of big cats in Surrey. The deadly disease of tuberculosis, TB, is on the way back. This year it'll kill more people worldwide than any other infectious disease, claiming 3 million lives. TB attacks the lungs. It causes wasting and certain death unless it's treated. These days it can be cured with a course of drugs. But doctors have now discovered a new strain of drug-resistant TB. So can they win the battle against the killer disease?
It's supposed to be a hospital, but it feels like you're in prison. I miss my daughter, I miss my family. It's real hard staying here. I'm kind of upset being here, and I never ever would want to come to another place like this.
A cable car links Manhattan with Roosevelt Island in New York's East River. In the island's Goldwater Hospital, patients with deadly drug-resistant TB are locked up until they're cured or they die.
This is like I'm being locked up for being sick. I mean, you know, that's wrong. I mean, I'm a sick person and I'm locked up because I'm sick. If that's the case, lock up half of America because they're sick, if not physically, mentally.
Just medical staff, everybody else outside.
This place is a time bomb, waiting to explode.
Patients are locked up here because they've repeatedly failed to complete their course of treatment. Their TB has become drug-resistant. Anger and frustration lead to tension, even violence.
Not being able to see my family, not being able to have a girlfriend, quote unquote, not being able to have a sexual relationship. I'm sexually active. I mean, you know, being locked away because I'm sick with TB, and they're taking everything else away from me. That makes me want to have it again and give it to people. That's how it makes me feel. Because I'm not taking care of my infection the way society says it should be taken care of, means I get locked up. How about people that have AIDS and they're giving it away? I mean, come on. They're not locked up. Nothing happens to them. And they're killing people.
As a physician, I am uncomfortable with the idea of having to detain people against their will. When a patient is detained in New York, it means they have really had many opportunities to complete their therapy in a voluntary way, and we do it because it's a public health threat. We do it to protect other patients as much as we do it to treat the patient himself with tuberculosis.
In this country, 6,000 people will this year be told they have TB. Although New York's desperate situation isn't yet happening here, TB is on the increase in Britain. In Liverpool's Broad Green Hospital, Dr. Peter Davies, one of the country's leading TB specialists, visits his latest patient, Eric Holmes.
Hi, Mr. Holmes. I'm sorry to bump into you in the middle of lunch. Is it all right if we have a chat now?
It certainly is indeed.
Good,
yes.
Thanks very much. How are you feeling?
Fine this morning now.
Good. I think you must have been on your treatment now for about 2 days, am I right?
That's right, yeah.
Started on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 1 lot of tablets on Tuesday.
That's right.
And 1 lot of tablets yesterday.
That's right.
Eric is a bit unusual in that here we have a apparently perfectly fit 50-year-old white male who develops tuberculosis. And I think the sequence of events was that he probably acquired the tuberculosis infection as a child or a young man 30 or 40 years ago when there was a lot of tuberculosis around in Merseyside.
I know I was x-rayed at school, sort of way back when I went to school. I'm 50 now, and we sort of had x-rays, but I didn't know an awful lot about it. I thought that it had sort of gone, finished, that disease was over, and other diseases had sort of taken over, but sort of TB had been eradicated.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello there.
My name's Sue Jameson.
Pleased to meet you.
How do you do?
Fine, thank you.
I'm actually a TB visitor.
Britain has been a world leader in contact tracing, health visitors seeing the friends and relatives of TB patients to make sure the disease doesn't spread. Sue Jameson, one of Liverpool's TB health visitors, has decided she needs to see a 91-year-old relative of Eric's.
You've been in contact with a case of TB, haven't you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You know about Eric having TB?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yes.
Well, how often do you see Eric?
Well, when he was all right, he used to come every day to me, like, and
yes,
it was a bit of a shock, you know, because he was so active.
Well, Alice, I'd like you to go to hospital and have a chest x-ray, if that's all right with you.
Yes,
it's just
that's right.
routine with people who are in contact.
Contact tracing is a major factor in preventing the spread of TB. As for Eric, a daily cocktail of drugs for almost 6 months will mean cure.
They're going to put me on tablets now for about the next 6 months, keep me under observation, and in 12 months' time, I'll be all ready to go to lead a new life.
That's fine. Get like you like that.
Doctors in London are seeing the first cases of the drug-resistant TB, which is now sweeping through New York. Here in this country, the stigma attached to this deadly new strain is such that sufferers need their identity protected. So why has the killer disease been allowed to return and a deadly new strain develop?
There's no doubt that people became complacent about tuberculosis 10 years ago. They saw year by year a decline in the numbers presenting with disease. And so, for example, chest physicians who have the expertise to deal with tuberculosis, when they're retired, they would appoint an expert in something else. Secondly, the nurses, the TB health visitors who go to these people's houses and draw up a list of contacts for screening, these people, when they retired, were again not reappointed.
The figures for Britain may be small in comparison with the epidemic that affects New York, but worldwide, TB is a killer of monumental proportions. The World Health Organization has predicted 30 million deaths over the next 10 years.
Please open your mouth, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
The experience in America is really a lesson to us all as to how bad you can get at managing tuberculosis. And this was because they'd lost their tuberculosis health visitors, they'd lost the means to go into the community to search out defaulters, bring them back into the chest clinics and make sure they took their drugs.
New York's health authorities have at last begun to take their TB crisis seriously. But turning hospitals into prisons and doctors into jailers is no substitute for an effective public health policy. In Britain, there's still time to prevent TB returning to its old position as mankind's biggest killer.
There are a number of different areas in which we had been neglecting our tuberculosis services. Now we realise tuberculosis is increasing, we've got to make sure that they're all in place, as indeed they should have been all along.
Eric Holmes is now back home and on his way to a complete recovery. Next week on 3D we have a special programme to mark the South African elections. We follow black and white recruits to the new national peacekeeping force. But will the election be peaceful, and can there be a lasting peace in South Africa?
Democracy must work. That's my greatest hope, my greatest fear, that the people that are responsible for what's going to happen on the 27th haven't done their homework.
That's all for tonight. Join us again at the same time, 7:30 next week. Good night.